Welcome back to the primer on self-defense, a series of 10 lessons. This is lesson number 2. Make sure that you go back and review lesson 1, wherein we talked about the concepts of levels of situational awareness, introduced you to the OODA loop, and various other skill sets. Today we're going to talk about situational awareness from the standpoint of pre-attack indications that either you or the person attacking you can exude. This is a list of some of those. Often an attacker will scan, making sure that he selects a proper target. Sometimes they'll index while they'll have their hand on the weapon. This is a picture of a law enforcement officer who's been trained in this interview posture. He's bladed his position, he has his hands up so that he's creating distance and space, weapons first, and his service weapon, which is on the right hip, is away from the possible attacker, while the police officer assesses the position. Looking for oversized, loose clothing like the jacket the individual was wearing, or maybe nervousness or failure to make eye contact. All of these can be pre-attack indicators and are part of this cumulative learning process. Make sure that you go back and review lesson 1, wherein we talked about distance creating time. We also talked about this concept of weapons first, making sure that our hands are between us and the opponent. The bladed position, turning that center line away to reduce their targeting. Here in lesson 2, we're going to do a single grab and double grab. We're going to focus on this idea of going against the thumb, a basic principle in many martial arts. You'll notice that when I angle, I create a fulcrum and I'm using my arm as a long lever. Let's take a look at this position. Bruce's thumb is wrapped around my forearm. I'm going to come up at this angle, what the Japanese would call elbow power, and quite literally roll against the thumb, which allows me to escape his grab. Obviously, in a street fight, he'll immediately re-grab, so we have to do something to occupy that space. This is a double inside grab, again, using this principle of against the thumb. I could push him away if I wished. Same thing going to the outside and against the thumb, and you can see the access for a push. If we think about it, there's really many options. If you keep it simple, when he grabs, you know where his hand is. You could simply strike with your other hand. A lot of times when they grab you, they'll immediately strike with the opposite hand. Hence, it's a good idea to learn how to go from that grab to a strike, like an elbow that moves away on the inside or the outside line. To build skills, always go back and review the skill sets from lesson 1. This is the idea of the box method or square method. Often students of mine will hear me talk about the idea of point of contact becomes point of control, but the point of contact can also become your point of counter. Like here, we're going to move in with a counter elbow strike. Let's look at that again. Block, point of contact, point of counter. I can make it quicker by utilizing the front hand and coming in with a short elbow strike. Same thing again, and often I like to trap with my rear hand. Here I block, counter with a step over strike. Contact, elbow. Contact, trap to elbow. It gives you more options when you trap because now you have a controlling point on his arm. If he should double up and strike with the opposite hand, I still have my principle of weapons first, which means my hands are up and on an on-guard position. So as Bruce strikes with his left hand, I'm able to scoop it with my left hand and come across with another elbow strike that's going to be a counter strike. Directly over his guard and across the temple. Let's take a look now at this idea of the square blocks and on-guard practice drills. If we look at these slowly, this would be a cross punch, a jab, a wide hooking punch, another wide hooking punch, and now an uppercut. And I want to draw my elbows down while I still cover my head. If we review lesson 2, again, the premise of going against the thumb, creating the fulcrum, and using your arm as a long lever. These are the takeaway messages or take-home lessons from lesson 1 and Lesson 2. Make sure that you constantly rehearse these drills, at least 10 times a week, until they become mushin, automatic, meaning you don't have to think about them in order to do the skill sets. If you're in a street environment and you're thinking about a movement, you get hit when you're thinking. Stay tuned for Lesson 3 on self-defense. And thanks for watching Dane Harden Martial Arts on YouTube and this primer series on basic self-defense skills.